The Crown Prince of the Capital Circle is my boss, and he asked me to help him fend off his admirers. Me, okay. The next day, he stared at my slightly protruding belly and nearly jumped in shock. What on earth is that? How did it get so big overnight? I smiled calmly. Boss, I'm bringing a prop. A ball. From then on, I hooked my arm through my boss's and paraded around openly. Facing his two childhood sweethearts, I thrust out my belly and declared with absolute confidence, I already have his child. What do you have to compete with me? The Crown Prince of the Capital Circle, Adrian, is my boss. At that moment, he was sitting across from me, studying me closely. Just an hour earlier, Miss Hofer had come looking for him again. She was clutching a huge bouquet of roses and shouting loudly, Adrian, come out. I came all this way to see you. The only people who could chase the Crown Prince so publicly and aggressively were the capital's socialite heiresses. Miss Hofer, and Mississippi Park as well, were both his childhood sweethearts. Their families were all bound together by shared interests. Which was exactly why these four young ladies pursued the Crown Prince in a way that felt almost like harassment. At first, I treated it as entertainment. Later, I realized it was seriously affecting my work efficiency and genuinely wished they'd take their pursuit outside the company. But today, the moment Miss Hofer showed up, my internal line rang. It couldn't be helped, I was the secretary responsible for screening who the Crown Prince agreed to meet. His voice was cold and clipped. Don't let her in. Get rid of her. There was unmistakable irritation in his tone. Fair enough. With Miss Hofer's height of 170 centimeters and weight of 180 pounds, even the Crown Prince might find that a bit overwhelming. When I stepped in to block her, Miss Hofer was anything but polite. I'm your future boss's wife. How dare you stop me? I kept a courteous smile and repeated myself, the boss isn't in the office. Please make an appointment before coming next time. She ignored me, shoved me aside, and tried to force her way in. I sighed, applied just the right amount of force, pinned her against the wall, and called security to escort her out. Then I summoned the head of security and reprimanded him sternly. If you ever let anyone in without an appointment again, you can all pack up and leave. If they hadn't failed at the front line, why would I, the final line of defense, have to offend people myself? The security chief apologized profusely before leaving. When I turned around, I found the Crown Prince watching me thoughtfully. An hour later, he called me into his office. His gaze was deep and unreadable. I couldn't tell whether he was considering promoting me or something else entirely. I was currently at the lowest rank in the secretary pool, having been transferred from PR. He rubbed his chin and said, You're quite good at dealing with women. I smiled modestly. It's my honor to help ease the boss's burdens. He continued, Do you have a way to make all of them stop bothering me? I looked at him. He looked back at me. Boss, I do have a solution. But this goes beyond company business and is rather tricky. If you need it, I can design a private, customized plan for you. He pondered for a moment, then said, As long as you can make those four stop bothering me, I'll personally give you 10 million as compensation once it's done. I replied calmly, and if only one or two are dealt with. Then we calculate by unit price. One person, 2.5 million. No problem, boss. However, this may require me to pretend to be your girlfriend, so I'll have the standing to fight them head on. You don't mind, do you? He chuckled. Not at all. Just tell me what you need me to do. Thus, a pleasant partnership was formed. During my lunch break, I printed out a contract and had him sign it. He raised an eyebrow. You're worried I'll skip out on the payment? Better to be the villain first and the gentleman later. That's what you taught us. After signing, he said, There's a banquet tomorrow night. Stephanie will be there. Get ready. I thought about it for a full hour. The next morning, I showed up at the office with a 4-month pregnant belly. As the Crown Prince passed my desk, he cast a casual glance, then froze in shock. What did you do? How did your belly get so big overnight? What did you grow in there? Carrying his coffee, I followed him into his office and said, Boss, I've thought it through. I believe I need a prop to increase my odds. I pulled out the pillow strapped to my stomach and said solemnly, And this ball is our child. His face went pale. He waved his hand frantically, signaling me to get out immediately. I stuffed the belly back in place and left. That evening, I wore a conservative white gown with a simple pearl necklace and attended the banquet with him. The moment we arrived, we spotted Stephanie waiting at the entrance. Her eyes lit up the instant she saw the Crown Prince, and she hurried over. Adrian. I've been waiting forever. I went to see you yesterday, but your secretary refused to let me in. I stepped in front of him. Adrian is my boyfriend now, Miss Hofer. Please conduct yourself with some dignity. Only then did she look at me, her eyes filled with disbelief, tears instantly welling up. If it weren't for the flesh on her face squeezing her eyes into thin slits, I might have thought she looked genuinely pitiful. A few seconds later, she wiped away her tears. So what if you're his girlfriend? Ignoring me, she turned to the crown prince and said, Adrian, I don't care how many women you have outside. As long as you come home after we get married, that's enough. I was stunned. It seemed this money would not be easy to earn after all. I immediately stepped forward and shoved her lightly. Stop throwing yourself at him. You might not mind, but Adrian and I do. He's already said it himself, for the rest of his life, it's only me. I snapped harshly, he doesn't love you. Can you stop being so annoying? The crown prince chimed in coolly from the side. Yeah. I genuinely don't like you. As he spoke, he wrapped an arm around my waist, deliberately pulling me close, the picture of intimacy. I won't give up, Stephanie insisted stubbornly. Where there's a will, there's a way. As long as I keep loving you, you'll be moved one day. I glanced at Adrian. His face was filled with nothing but impatience and helplessness. Good Lord, how could someone be this incapable of understanding plain language? I already have his child, I blurted out. What do you think you can use to compete with me? I had no choice but to pull out my ultimate weapon. She looked at my belly, pain filling her eyes, yet she said, you can give birth to it. I'll raise the child as my own in the future. You'll never be able to marry into the Watson family, but I can. Then she added calmly, I can also give you 100 million as compensation. If that's not enough, the price is negotiable. I slowly loosened my grip on Adrian's hand. That kind of future boss's wife? I could accept that. But Adrian cleared his throat. I immediately let out a scornful snort. I've never seen someone this shameless. Adrian, let's go. Throughout the banquet, Stephanie kept her eyes glued to us. To emphasize our closeness, I had no choice but to flirt openly with Adrian. I even fed him cake, whining sweetly that my ankle hurt and asking him to massage it for me. He did everything without hesitation. Yet Stephanie continued to follow him everywhere. I couldn't help but admire Adrian at that point. With a pursuer this relentless, it was impressive he'd endured it for so long. The banquet finally ended. The moment we got into the car, the driver was yanked out of the driver's seat. I looked up, and sure enough, it was Stephanie again. She turned around and declared, I'll drive you. That aggressive determination genuinely scared me. Before we could react, the car locked with a sharp click. Adrian was furious. He called the driver immediately. You're fired. I shrank back instinctively. So this was the price of failing at your job. To be fair, Stephanie's driving skills were actually pretty good. I curled up in the back seat, not daring to say a word. Adrian kept signaling for me to do something. I ignored him and focused on touching up my makeup. No kidding, I wasn't about to provoke the driver. Then Adrian suddenly grabbed me and pulled me onto his lap. I stared at him in shock, but could only play along. You're terrible. You can't even wait through such a short drive. Be careful, you'll hurt the baby. I won't let you get away with this. He lowered his voice. Baby, it's because you smell too good. I don't want to be away from you for even a second. The moment the words left his mouth, the two of us were instantly covered in goosebumps. The Maybach sped onto the elevated highway. Rain began to fall. I immediately lost the will to keep acting. But this time, Stephanie spoke with a sob in her voice. I like you so much, why don't you like me? You promised we'd be friends. You said you wouldn't let others mock me or bully me. Adrian finally released me. I scrambled back to my seat. He said calmly, that's because we're friends. But being friends doesn't mean we have to become lovers. Even if we got married, we could still be friends. The best kind of marriage is a friendship. I only marry the person I love. And I love Emery. She's carrying my child now, so she's the only one I'll marry. You're lying. Stephanie shouted angrily, flooring the accelerator. You're just like everyone else, you despise me for being fat. I've loved you for so long, and now I have nothing left. And you're still abandoning me. Do you have to wait until I'm dead before you remember anything good about me? Even Adrian was momentarily stunned. But he still said firmly, I honestly don't see what you've lost. No matter what you say, feelings can't be forced. Then let's die together today. Stephanie glanced at me through the rearview mirror and added coldly, and take her with us. Those few seconds felt unbearably long. After a brief pause, I started slapping my own face in my seat. Miss Hofer, please don't be angry. It's all my fault, really, all my fault. The boss was bewitched by me. Please don't take it out on him. Why don't you let me out first? Otherwise, it's going to seriously affect your lover's suicide. While I was still slapping myself, the car had already exited the highway and stopped by the roadside. Stephanie's voice lit up with excitement. Really? She turned to Adrian. Look at her, she's so afraid of death. She doesn't deserve to stand by your side at all. The car door opened. I immediately rolled out of the car. Oh my God, after retching twice, I finally managed to steady myself. Adrian stood nearby, looking at me coolly, then said to Stephanie, I know she has many flaws, and she doesn't meet my ideal standards. But standards are reserved for people you don't love. I find that her flaws make her more real, and more adorable. I instantly threw myself into his arms. I was trying to protect our baby. He leaned close to my ear and murmured, your baby is about to get crushed. I quickly loosened my grip. Stephanie shouted, I have even more flaws, bigger, more obvious ones. That makes me even cuter. Adrian replied flatly, that's unnecessary. You don't meet my standards. Her eyes filled with tears. Then what are your standards? She asked softly. Tell me. I can do anything. Seeing that the two of them were clearly going nowhere, I could only clutch my stomach and cry out, Adrian, my belly hurts. His expression changed instantly. Without missing a beat, he played along, helping me into the car before slipping into the driver's seat himself and speeding off. In the rearview mirror, I could still see Stephanie standing there, her face bleak as she watched our car disappear. I sat in the back seat while the Crown Prince drove. After a while, he asked calmly, so, what are your thoughts? I hesitated before saying, Mr. Watson, maybe you should just give in. I actually think Miss Hofer is pretty decent. Do you want to be fired too? I immediately straightened up. I have a plan. Go on. I said, Mr. Watson, we had an agreement. As long as they don't cling to you for more than 6 months, my task counts as a success. Right? He glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Then just wait and see how my plan works. The next day, using the phone number I'd obtained from the Crown Prince, I arranged to meet Stephanie. She looked exhausted. When she saw me, she asked softly, your stomach was okay yesterday, right? I didn't mean to scare you by driving so fast. I shook my head. I'm fine. What about you? Did you not sleep well? She said sadly, I just keep thinking, if Adrian really marries you, then I'll have no chance at all. I have an idea, I said. It might make him accept you. Do you want to try? Just try. Her eyes lit up, but suspicion quickly followed. You'd really be that kind? You said it yourself, he'll never marry me. Then of course I need to find a good mother for my child. I think you'd be perfect. If you really marry him someday, would you treat my child well? She glanced at me, then down at her teacup. I won't treat your child well. I'll only be good to Adrian's child. Oh my God. Were we seriously acting out a tragic melodrama right here? What kind of charm did the Crown Prince even have, to leave Stephanie this utterly spellbound? Was he secretly bound to some kind of universal heartthrob system? I drew up a plan for Stephanie. Step 1, I told her, you need to make yourself beautiful. Otherwise, when the two of you stand together, people won't even think you're a match. Stephanie said bitterly, I can't lose weight. She looked at me, then steeled herself. I was kidnapped once. I was locked up for 3 days and starved. Adrian was the one who rescued me, he even injured his hand and could never race again. Ever since then, I've always felt hungry. I have to keep eating, or I feel unbearable inside. As she spoke, she pulled a bun from her bag and started gnawing on it. So that was it? Childhood sweethearts, plus a life-saving debt. No wonder she was so devoted. I dragged Stephanie to the hospital. After a series of tests, the doctor prescribed medication. Can you stick to taking the medicine? I asked. She nodded. Then go to the gym every day. I'll check your workout records. If you do well, I'll put in a good word for you in front of Adrian. She hummed softly. Thank you. We're rivals, yet you're still helping me. I sighed, suddenly world-weary. Well, we both fell in love with a man who never goes home. A few days later, the Crown Prince asked me in confusion, what did you do? Why hasn't Stephanie come to see me lately? She's becoming a better version of herself, I replied. He frowned slightly, puzzled, but clearly uninterested, and turned away. That evening, I went to the gym to see Stephanie. She'd already lost 5 pounds. With the medication curbing her appetite and consistent exercise, the weight was coming off quickly, though I knew it would only get harder later. She was walking on the treadmill, breathing heavily. On the treadmill console was a photo of her and Adrian from middle school. Back then, she'd looked delicate and refined, and the two of them had seemed perfectly matched. I stopped beside her and said, see? You didn't go looking for him for a few days, and today he asked about you. Her eyes lit up immediately. What did he ask? He got curious. Asked where you'd gone. You see, I keep telling you, men are all the same. When you chase them, they don't treasure you. But once you stop, that's when they start thinking about you. She immediately stopped the treadmill. No, that won't do. I need to go see him right away. I can't keep him waiting. I snapped in frustration. Why can't you understand what I'm saying? If you keep seeing him now, he'll get used to your changes. Later, when you finally slim down, there'll be no sense of novelty, my efforts will be completely wasted. She said awkwardly, don't be angry. Getting upset isn't good for the baby. I'll keep training. Honestly, I feel happier looking at our old photos than seeing him in person. He's so cold to me now. I worked out with her for more than 10 minutes, repeatedly reminding her to restrain the urge to see him. To wait until she'd slimmed down, then give him a head-on surprise. Stephanie, probably exhausted from dieting, responded with a weak, listless hum. With Stephanie stabilized for now, another problem arrived. Nicole. The Crown Prince took me with him to Nicole's birthday banquet. This Mississippi Park rarely came to the office to look for him, I'd never met her before. But once we arrived at the party, a woman like a pampered little princess, surrounded by admirers, came gliding over. She greeted us with a smile. Brother Adrian, this is yours. She looked at me kindly, then at my belly, covering her mouth as she laughed. Does this mean I'll be attending your wedding banquet very soon? I looked at the Crown Prince in confusion. She didn't seem to like him at all. Could it be that he had some kind of delusion of being universally adored? Still, the Crown Prince smiled, wrapped an arm around my waist, and said to the radiant Nicole, she's my girlfriend, Emery. Nicole smiled again. A woman you're willing to publicly call your girlfriend? That's incredibly rare. As she spoke, she affectionately linked arms with me. Emery, you don't mind if I call you that, right? Come on, I'll introduce you to some new friends. What fun is it staying with men? I glanced back at the Crown Prince. He nodded. I'll come get you later. Smiling, I followed Nicole. Sure enough, she began introducing me to the other elite young ladies. But there was something off in every word they said. This is Emery, Adrian's secretary, Nicole said, pressing her lips together in a smile. He hasn't mentioned marriage, after all. Oh, and of course she's different from us. How could we possibly compete with her methods? Then she turned to me and added, Emery, how did you manage to win Adrian over? Teach us a few tricks, we might benefit from them for the rest of our lives. Her friends immediately chimed in. Those kinds of tricks? I wouldn't learn them. Their laughter was dripping with disdain. I merely smiled faintly and said nothing. When the server brought over drinks, someone bumped into him. Several glasses tipped over, splashing all over me. Nicole grabbed my arm, exclaiming in surprise, oh dear, come on, I'll take you to change. I followed her. But as we reached the staircase, she suddenly said in a low voice, you're pregnant, huh? What makes you think you deserve to carry Adrian's child? As she spoke, she turned abruptly, trying to drag me down the stairs with her. Me, ma'am, this really isn't necessary. I sidestepped instinctively. She lost her balance and tumbled down the stairs. I immediately screamed, help. Mississippi Park has fallen. Someone help. In seconds, a crowd gathered. The Crown Prince arrived as well. Clutching my stomach, I hurried down the stairs and threw myself into his arms. He wrapped an arm around me and asked anxiously, what happened? Are you okay? I sobbed, trembling as I spoke, I don't know what happened. Mississippi Park suddenly lost her footing. I was afraid of hurting the baby, so I dodged. Was I too selfish? I should have caught her. Mississippi Park is badly hurt, it's all my fault. He comforted me gently, wiping away my tears. Nonsense. You're so delicate, how could you possibly catch her? And you're pregnant. If anything happened to the baby, how would I go on living? Nearby, Nicole had already started apologizing, saying it was her carelessness and that she'd nearly hurt me. At the end, she even looked at me and said, I'll treat you to dinner next time, Emery. This was all my fault. Leaning against the Crown Prince's chest, I said in a soft, spoiled voice, no. Our birth charts don't match, I'm afraid it wouldn't be good for the baby. For a split second, her expression twisted, then she smiled again and apologized to Adrian. The Crown Prince took me away. In the car, I asked quietly, that Miss Park, did she ever do anything to you? She goes to my mother every single day, he replied calmly. Trying to use family pressure to force me to marry her. I shrank back instinctively and asked warily, you're not going to make me go see your mother too, are you? This money was really not easy to earn. He smiled but said nothing. The meaning was obvious. I fell silent for a moment, then said bluntly, Mr. Watson, if you like someone, why not just be with her? Wouldn't your childhood sweethearts disappear on their own? Why make things so complicated? He sighed. They've exhausted me. I'm swamped with work every day, how would I even have time to fall in love? Besides, look at what happened today. If I really had someone I loved, a miscarriage wouldn't be hypothetical, it would be very real. Then bankrupt the Park family, I blurted out. Isn't that how it goes in novels? He calls himself the Crown Prince of the capital, so how is he getting pushed around like this? While driving, he glanced at me casually and said, then I'll leave this matter to you. Draft a detailed plan and show it to me. I immediately started slapping myself. I've got a sharp tongue, please don't take it seriously. Just pretend I said nothing. As if anyone who grew up as his childhood sweetheart came from a family with assets beyond counting. If we really tried to bankrupt or acquire them, we'd be busy for 5 years straight. He parked in front of a restaurant. As a server came to take the car, he said, "Come on. Let's eat, working dinner." Unlike our usual work meals, this time it was just the two of us. I watched the servers bring out the dishes while he took a phone call. He was tall, with sharply defined features and a pair of peach blossom eyes. When he thought, his long fingers tapped the table slowly, rhythmically. When he noticed me staring, he looked up. Peach blossom eyes always look affectionate when they meet yours. But it was all an illusion. Because he looked at the dead the same way. After finishing the call, he asked lightly, "What are you looking at?" I asked him, "I remember you have a few friends. Do any of them deal with problems like yours?" One of his friends was rather overweight, another wasn't even as tall as he was. People with conditions as ridiculously favorable as his were rare. He frowned, thought for a moment, then said, "Probably not. Otherwise, they wouldn't mock me about it every day." I laughed as well. "Then maybe the problem lies with you." He shot me a sharp look. Holding back my laughter, I said, "Mr. Watson, think about it, if you weighed 180 pounds, or if you were actually paralyzed, would they still like you?" I pressed on encouragingly. "You could pretend to be paralyzed. Sit in a wheelchair every day. What's the big deal?" "I recall asking you to help me get rid of them. But you also said you'd cooperate with whatever I needed," I replied innocently. In the end, he still refused. And did so quite coldly. As the car drove on, he glanced into the rearview mirror several times. I asked, "What's wrong?" "Someone's following me." I tensed immediately. "Should you drop me off first?" He freed one hand and pinched my cheek, hard. We both froze in surprise. He awkwardly withdrew his hand and cleared his throat. "Didn't you say you'd devote yourself to me completely, even die for me if needed?" I said, "I can get out and draw them away." "Boss, you go first." He ignored me and made a call instead. The car kept moving. By the time we reached his villa, the car that had been tailing us was already surrounded. Several people holding cameras were pinned to the ground. One of the Crown Prince's bodyguards reported, "Mr. Watson, they're private investigators." The men stammered in fear, "Mississippi Park hired us, it's got nothing to do with us." The Crown Prince waved his hand dismissively, signaling for them to be taken away. I stared at the luxurious mansion before me and sighed inwardly. Capitalists really are unimaginably rich. He said to me, "Nicole is very calculating. There's a good chance she might send people to make trouble for you as well. I think you'd better stay here with me for now." I felt just how troublesome this mission had become. But since I'd already come this far, backing out now would mean not only losing the money, but also offending a wealthy young lady. Life would definitely not be easy afterward. So, I moved into the Crown Prince's house. Standing in the spacious, sunlit bedroom, larger than my entire apartment, I fell into deep thought. These conditions were truly heaven-sent. Why shouldn't I let the act become real and actually become the Crown Prince's woman? My career would skyrocket instantly. Even if things didn't last, I'd still gain plenty while I was with him. Besides, those women weren't fools. If there weren't benefits to be had from him, who would chase him around every day? But how to pursue him was another issue. There were already countless women after him, and none had succeeded. All I could do was hope that, through daily proximity, he might eventually feel something. Sure enough, my interactions with the Crown Prince increased significantly. To make the act convincing, we went to work together every day, left together, and even ate together. Everyone in the company knew I'd risen to the top. The looks people gave me were a mix of respect, envy, and, of course, those eager to watch the drama unfold. I took it all in stride. Some even said I'd deliberately hidden my belly before, waiting until the pregnancy passed 3 months and stabilized, so I could rely on the child to secure my position and force the Crown Prince to go public with our relationship. Perfect. When my stomach had been flat before and now suddenly swollen, they'd even come up with a ready-made explanation for me. That evening, while we were out for dinner, we ran into Nicole again. She was accompanied by a dignified older woman. One who bore a faint resemblance to the Crown Prince. He addressed her, "Mom." I smiled politely and greeted her. "Hello, Auntie." She didn't even spare me a glance. The Crown Prince held my hand the entire time in public, it made everything look more convincing. After greeting her briefly, he said, "Mom, this is my girlfriend, Emery. We won't disturb you while you're eating, we'll be going now." She responded coldly. It didn't feel like a mother speaking to her son. It felt more like a boss addressing an employee. Only once they were out of sight did the tension leave my chest. His mother's presence was overwhelming. Standing before her, I felt utterly inferior. It wasn't just pressure, it was the sense that I wasn't even worthy of speaking to her. She made me feel like trash. It seemed Nicole's chances of marrying the crown prince were much higher after all. For someone with standards as lofty as his mother's to approve of her, Nicole clearly had real capability. Not long after, I received a call from his mother's secretary, inviting me out for a meal. I immediately told the crown prince. After some thought, he studied me and asked, "If she offers you 10 million, you wouldn't actually agree, would you?" I froze. "Or? I could take the money, and we split it 50-50. He glanced at my belly. "I'm more worried she'd force you to get an abortion. Is forced medical treatment even still a thing?" I shuddered. Any lingering ambitions I'd had toward him vanished instantly. I didn't have a powerful family background to protect me. In the end, he went with me. Walking through the long corridor of the tea house, his hand held mine. My heart couldn't help but flutter. The crown prince really was handsome. If I could sleep with him even once, that wouldn't be bad at all. When his mother saw him, her sharp gaze fixed on him. "I didn't call you here." "No," he replied calmly, pulling me down to sit beside him. "But you called my person, so I had to come along." I smiled politely. "Hello, Auntie. May I ask why you wanted to see me?" She stared straight at me. "Miss Birth, you and Adrian are not suitable for each other. Please terminate the pregnancy and leave my son." "I can't, Auntie," I said tearfully. "We truly love each other. How could I possibly abort the child?" "This is 50 million, she said, sliding a bank card across the table. "If you take it, you get 50 million. If you don't, what happens to you afterward is something I can't guarantee." With that, she picked up her handbag, cast a long look at the crown prince, and left. The bank card lay alone on the table. I glanced cautiously at the crown prince, whose face was cold as ice. Then, just as cautiously, I picked up the card. I moved out of the crown prince's house. After moving out, I took a 1-month leave. When I returned to the office a month later, my face looked slightly bloated and exhausted, and my belly was flat again. My colleagues were shocked and asked what had happened. I said calmly, "Watson and I broke up. And the baby is gone." Everyone had their fill of gossip and left, satisfied. My life returned to its normal rhythm. That day, after the crown prince's mother left, he gestured for me to take the money, saying there was no reason not to. Our contract was nullified after that. Because I had a feeling that if I continued fooling around with him, his mother might truly have someone deal with me. Stephanie's weight loss over 2 months had been remarkably effective. When I saw her again, she was still slightly plump, but tall, with delicate features and well-balanced looks. She was genuinely pleasant to look at. She stared at my now flat stomach and snapped angrily, "How could you abort the baby?" I explained everything from beginning to end. After hearing it, she said through clenched teeth, "It must have been Nicole again. She's always been like this. If she can't have something herself, she won't let anyone else have it either." I said to her, "Let's not talk about me. At least I got a breakup payout, not bad at all. You still need to stick with your weight loss." She cast a longing glance at the cake in front of me, swallowed hard, then nodded. The two of us even made plans to go shopping together. This young lady was someone I genuinely wanted to maintain a good relationship with, mainly because she was fairly simple-minded, and who knew? I might need her help someday. But while we were shopping, we ran into Nicole. Nicole looked at Stephanie and said, "Stephanie, you've lost so much weight. Don't tell me you're dieting for Adrian, brother Adrian? I actually thought you looked better before, chubby and adorable." Stephanie replied coldly, "My business is none of your concern." Nicole smiled faintly, then turned to me. "Your baby's gone? I thought you'd rely on the child to secure your position and marry Adrian directly. Looks like his marriage is still decided by his family." I said nothing. At that moment, both of their phones rang at the same time. Their expressions changed instantly, and they both moved to leave. Stephanie even grabbed my hand and pulled me along. In the car, she said urgently, "Adrian was in a car accident. At the hospital," the doctor said, "the patient's lower limbs have suffered severe damage. It's possible that he may need to use a wheelchair for the rest of his life." If there hadn't been other people around, I would have wanted to pry his eyes open to see if this was really happening. Everyone wore expressions of anxiety and grief. The crown prince woke up, looked at his legs, and began pounding them furiously. "I don't believe it. I don't believe I'll really end up paralyzed." His mother tried to comfort him, but he smashed the 4-stand, then proceeded to hurl anything he could grab, shouting, "Get out. All of you, get out. You're all here to laugh at me." I quickly followed everyone else out. Sigh. I went home. Deep down, I still hoped he was acting, that this was all just a performance. If he was truly paralyzed, it was unimaginable. The office was the same as ever, except Adrian was gone. So many matters had no one to make decisions. Sometimes, looking at his empty office, I felt unexpectedly lonely. After I'd been seated outside his office, whenever he passed by, he'd occasionally say a few words to me. Either telling me not to wear perfume, or asking me to block people who came looking for him. Sometimes, when he returned from outside, he'd even bring me afternoon tea. The secretary department organized a visit to see the Crown Prince, and I went along. He was nothing like his former confident self, he looked utterly haggard. And the doctors and nurses were all afraid of him. According to the nurses, even his mother rarely came to see him anymore. Mainly because his temper was terrible, he smashed things at the slightest provocation. Only Stephanie came to see him every day. She accompanied him during rehabilitation. Yet he never appreciated it. Stephanie was deeply hurt. The two of us talked in the hospital garden. Crying as she spoke, she said, "He's changed so much. His temper is awful. I'm only trying to help him, yet he yells at me. It hurts so much." Looking at how thin she'd become, I said, "He's like this now, and you still like him?" She nodded through tears. "No matter what he becomes, I like him." I couldn't help but admire her deeply. I asked, "Does Nicole still come to see him? Does she still go to the Watson family to curry favor?" She replied absent-mindedly, "No. She said she wants to marry the most perfect man. Someone like Adrian, who collapses after a setback, she wouldn't like at all. She's truly despicable." Honestly, I thought Nicole wasn't entirely wrong. When we returned to the hospital room, the secretary department staff had already left. Stephanie and I had been gone for less than 5 minutes. It seemed they'd been yelled out as well. The Crown Prince asked irritably, "You're still here? Haven't you had enough of watching my humiliation?" Like a wronged little wife, Stephanie asked carefully, "Adrian, would you like some fruit? I can peel an apple for you. Are you annoying or what? I don't want to see you, get out." Stephanie pretended not to hear him and sat beside him anyway, peeling the apple. I saw her tears falling, drop by drop. I wondered. Was this a world meant for tragic angst novels? Before I could reach any conclusion, the Crown Prince suddenly snatched the apple from her hand, hurled it to the floor, and then smashed the other fruit and flower baskets to the ground. Stephanie finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She covered her mouth and ran out. I stared at the sudden chaos. When the Crown Prince's bloodshot eyes turned toward me, I immediately played blind, groping the air. "I'm leaving right now, right now." "Stop." I shuddered. "Clean this up." "Huh? Oh, okay." So I began tidying up. "Before long," he added, "go get my laptop." "Okay." "Wipe my face." "Okay." By the time I finished everything, he made no further demands and simply hugged his laptop, staring at the screen. I sat beside him, looking at his legs beneath the blanket. Without lifting his eyes, he said, "You suspect I'm pretending?" I nodded. He smiled at me. "I am pretending." Then he winked. He looked like a completely different person. I couldn't help but smile as well. I quickly glanced outside, then whispered to him, "I heard from Stephanie that Nicole has stopped going to your mother to curry favor." He rubbed his brow wearily and said, "Keeping up the act is exhausting." Then he looked at me sternly. "Emery, do you have any conscience at all? You didn't come see me for so long." Oh dear. When the Crown Prince stared at me like that, I didn't feel scared at all. On the contrary, it felt strangely familiar. I pressed my lips together and smiled. "Did you forget? We broke up. And I just had a miscarriage not long ago." He waved a hand dismissively. "Remember to come see me every day. I'm bored to death in here." "How long do you plan to keep pretending?" "Until Stephanie and Nicole give up completely." Thankfully, I was a secretary. Whenever the company had documents that required the Crown Prince's signature, I'd deliver them personally, and check on him while I was at it. Even when there were no documents, I still went. After all, it was a direct order from the boss. No one could say a thing. I went back and forth between the company and the hospital like this for quite some time. During that period, I ran into the Crown Prince's mother twice. Each time, the Crown Prince was either smashing things or yelling at people. When I arrived, he'd calm down for a short while, then start yelling and throwing things again. His mother had no way of dealing with him. Eventually, she even told me to visit him more often. The two of us stood in the hospital corridor. I said awkwardly, "We just broke up. Coming for work reasons is one thing, but right now Watson is especially vulnerable, easy for someone to take advantage of emotionally. If I keep coming to see him, what if old feelings reignite?" She remained as aloof as ever. "With the way he is now, the family will abandon him sooner or later. If you want him, you can keep him." That tone, I didn't even have the heart to repeat it to the Crown Prince. I never expected that someone who'd always stood so high above everyone else would one day no longer be untouchable. Stephanie came every day at first. Later, she stopped coming so often. Once, I asked her, "Do you not like him anymore either?" She looked into the distance and shook her head. Her figure was completely under control now. That medication was truly effective, and combined with exercise, the weight had come off quickly. After a long pause, she said, "He doesn't like me. I can tell. The one he likes is you." I stared at her in surprise. She spoke softly. "I know you two were acting before. You weren't really pregnant. Back then, he just wanted me to stop bothering him. But now, he truly likes you. The way he looks at you is different." In the end, she kicked at the grass under her feet. No one can endure watching the person they love look at another woman that way. Not even me. She looked at me. "Be good to him. Stay with him properly." I opened my mouth, but didn't know what to say. Trying to persuade her further would only be hypocrisy. She smiled again, relieved. "I've done everything I could. I showed my sincerity as much as possible. If he doesn't like me, that's his loss. I finally realized that my life shouldn't revolve around him. I can live wonderfully on my own. And I have you to thank for that. If you hadn't dragged me out of it by force, I don't know how long I would have stayed lost like that." After Stephanie left, I returned to the hospital room. The Crown Prince was working. When he saw me come back, he raised an eyebrow. "She left?" I nodded. "She probably won't like you anymore." "Oh?" He sounded mildly interested. "Why's that?" "She said you like me, and watching that hurt her." He smiled at me. "Well then, how about it? Want to rekindle things with me?" I should have said something light-hearted, but my throat tightened. I could only stare at him blankly. His hand brushed mine, then closed around it. "I'm very happy when I'm with you. What about you, Emery? Do you want to really try being with me?" His eyes curved with a smile, gazing at me with such focused tenderness. My heart thundered in my chest as a thought drifted through my mind. "Boss, how could anyone possibly refuse you?" No matter how I looked at it, I wouldn't refuse. Love is a gamble. If my opponent was him, I had nothing to fear losing. And if I won, that would be a return beyond measure. Epilogue. To say that Adrian fell in love with Emery at first sight would be a lie. But his admiration for her was real. The company was full of talent. As countless as fish crossing a river. Yet Emery still stood out among the newcomers, becoming the company's rising star 3 years in a row. Remaining outstanding among the outstanding was no easy feat. Everyone knew that working as the boss's secretary was the fastest path to promotion. She defeated dozens of competitors and climbed her way up again. Emery was likable, always wearing a faint smile when dealing with others. But what Adrian truly admired was the ruthlessness in her eyes. Her undisguised ambition and resilience. Like the time she physically restrained Stephanie when she tried to force her way into the office. Like the way she sharply reprimanded the head of security, telling him to pack up and leave if it ever happened again. There was no place for naive sweetness in the workplace. Yet she was also relaxed and witty, knowing exactly how to please her boss. Perhaps she simply had the rare skill of speaking the right language to the right person. Being around her made him feel comfortable. Sometimes, when he was alone, he would unconsciously recall her outrageous ideas. And the sight of her parading around with a fake pregnant belly. And he would laugh out loud. How could someone even come up with something like that? What normal person would strap on a fake belly and parade through the city? She had seriously suggested he gain weight, or pretend to be paralyzed. She wasn't joking. She even seemed a little eager to watch the chaos unfold. Sometimes, when she put on an act, supporting her belly, moving slowly into his office to hand him documents for signing, she would tease him mischievously, "Watson, cut me some slack. After all, I'm carrying our baby." He always found it amusing. But when his mother took out 50 million and used it to threaten Emery, he knew, regretfully, that the game was over. At first, he really had wanted to use Emery to block Stephanie and Nicole. Yet later on, he found that going in and out with her, eating meals together, actually felt quite enjoyable. After she moved into his house, she fulfilled her role conscientiously, carefully strapping on the fake belly every day. Sometimes, because her view was blocked, she nearly tripped. She would gasp in fright, pat her belly, and joke, "Oh my baby, did you hold on tight to mommy's umbilical cord just now?" Whenever he saw scenes like that, he wanted to burst out laughing. While she lived in his house, she was very well behaved. Once she went into her room, she rarely came out. He, on the other hand, wanted to chat with her in the living room, even just run into her by chance, but unfortunately, it never happened. After she removed the belly, she returned to work as if nothing had happened. She even took the opportunity to go on a month-long leave. Naturally, he couldn't say anything about it. But watching her flat stomach again, watching her return to the respectful, deferential manner of a subordinate toward her boss, he felt an inexplicable emptiness in his chest. She had a beautiful face and smiling eyes. The corners of her lips always curved upward, carrying a hint of amusement. He often felt as though there were a kiss waiting at the corner of her mouth. Waiting for him. Her fingers were long and pale. Sometimes, when he passed by her desk and saw her fingers flying across the keyboard, he found himself wondering. Whose hand would these fingers be held by in the future? When they were pretending to be a couple, he often held her hand. The touch was warm and delicate, like holding a piece of fine, warm jade. Love is a feeling. Long-term effort alone is merely moving, it isn't love. He didn't have that feeling for Stephanie. As for Nicole, he felt nothing but aversion. No one likes having parents used as leverage against them. He judged a person's character more by their actions than anything else. He did have that feeling for Emery. Sometimes he thought, if she were truly carrying their child, that wouldn't be a bad life at all. When he looked at her, he would imagine that living together with her would be genuinely joyful. When he saw her, he could picture a concrete future, shared daily life. Just like the kiss he imagined at her lips. He looked forward to it. After Emery and Adrian rekindled their romance, everyone sighed in amazement, saying that the Crown Prince's paralysis had come at exactly the right time, that hardship truly revealed genuine feelings. Emery accompanied him through rehabilitation, pushed him to and from work. Whenever someone came to visit, they would always see her silently enduring his scolding, massaging him without complaint to prevent muscle atrophy. What kind of angsty novel plot was this? By the time Adrian fully stood up again, half a year had passed. During that period, the two of them quickly registered their marriage. And after Emery's miscarriage, she became pregnant once more. Everyone marveled at how hard she worked just to rise to the top. Emery was indeed working hard to rise. Adrian had countless halos around him, but only those that benefited her were truly useful to her. By the time Adrian stopped pretending to be paralyzed, she was already 3 months pregnant. One of the company's underperforming subsidiaries was missing a person in charge. Being a secretary, or an external assignment, were both excellent paths to promotion. Especially in a large corporation like theirs. Spend a few years in a subsidiary, accumulate experience and capability, and whether one returned to the group as mid or senior level management or transferred elsewhere, the salary would multiply. When she applied for the position, Adrian looked at her 50-page future plan for the company and raised an eyebrow. His newlywed wife clearly wanted to use his resources and platform to maximize her own value. He admired her vigorous vitality. He also enjoyed watching a fine piece of jade beside him gradually shine with unmistakable brilliance. Becoming Adrian's wife gave Emery tremendous leverage. 5 years later, she became the youngest vice president in the Watson Group. Aside from Adrian stepping back and vacating the CEO position for her, there was nowhere higher for her to climb. Those who didn't know her might think she rose purely because of Adrian. After all, who would dare not promote the boss's wife? But those who knew her abilities would sigh and say, a woman who can make Watson fall in line, how poor could her abilities possibly be? After all, Adrian despised mediocrity most of all. When Emery wanted to resign and start her own business, the family of 3 held a meeting. While working at Watson Group, she still had relatively regular hours. But once she started her own venture, her schedule would be completely unpredictable. Their son was already in elementary school. Holding a toy car he was disassembling and reassembling, he said simply, I support Mom. Mom can do whatever she wants. Adrian thought for a moment and said, of course I have no objections. Still, such a decision would inevitably impact their lives. There was an unspoken irritation in his voice. Sometimes, just so their son could see his mother, Adrian had to take him to her company. Even after the child fell asleep, she would still be working overtime. A friend once advised him, what's the point of marrying a wife if she can't stay home, cook for you, and wait for you to come back? Why keep her? He thought about it. If Emery really became a housewife, it would feel wrong. Emery was meant to be a woman full of ambition and desire. She wanted many things. She wanted to stand higher. He only needed to watch quietly from the side. Besides, he said, I don't need someone to wash her hands and cook for me. I'm willing to cook for her. It's just that, we're the same kind of people. Late at night, he would hold their son, with her walking beside him. She would apologize softly, saying she'd made him wait again. He would pat her head. She would show a rare, girlish shyness, gazing at him with affection. He would look at the kiss waiting at her lips and lean down slightly. Fortunately, after Emery's company stabilized, the frequency of her working around the clock dropped significantly. Life returned to its proper track. She felt that everything in her life was good. All of it chosen by her own will, all of it earned through her own effort. At the gambling table of life, she liked to push all her chips forward. And luckily, she won the Grand Slam.